In the 1970s, people around the world started hearing something strange. A repetitive clicking sound. Fast, metallic, relentless. Over and over again, day after day. The signal interrupted radio broadcasts, military frequencies, civilian communications. Amateur radio operators heard it constantly. Some people thought it was interference. Others thought it was a secret transmission. But nobody could explain one thing. The signal was incredibly powerful. Powerful enough to travel across continents, across oceans, across the planet. Radio operators eventually gave it a name, the Russian Woodpecker, because of the sound it made. Tup, tup, tup. Like something mechanical hammering against the sky. Governments stayed quiet. The Soviet Union said nothing. And the signal continued. Every day, every night, until people started asking a disturbing question. Was this just a radio signal? Or was somebody testing something much larger? But the signal wasn't random. Someone was transmitting it, and somewhere inside the Soviet Union, something enormous was already listening. The signal became impossible to ignore. By the late 1970s, radio operators across the world were talking about the same thing. The tapping sound, the interruption, the pulse. Some described it as electronic gunfire. Others compared it to helicopter blades. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was everywhere. Frequencies became unusable. Signals disappeared beneath the noise. Operators tried blocking it, filtering it, avoiding it. Nothing worked. And slowly, theories began spreading. Was it a Soviet communication system? A military experiment? A psychological weapon? Some believed the USSR was trying to interfere with Western communications. Others believed something stranger. That the signal wasn't meant for humans at all. But hidden beneath all the theories was a terrifying possibility. What if the Soviet Union had built a machine capable of watching the entire planet? Because somewhere deep inside Soviet territory, construction had already begun. The world could hear the signal, but nobody had seen the machine creating it, until satellites finally discovered something hidden in the forests near Chernobyl. When intelligence satellites finally captured images of the structure, analysts were shocked, because this wasn't a normal radar station. It was enormous, a metallic wall stretching across the forest, hundreds of feet tall, nearly impossible to hide. And yet, almost nobody knew it existed. The structure stood near Chernobyl, deep inside Soviet territory, hidden behind secrecy, military checkpoints, and restricted zones. Its official designation was Duga, but operators around the world already knew another name, the Russian Woodpecker. From a distance, the structure looked unreal, like something built to communicate with space, or monitor the planet itself. And in some ways, that wasn't far from the truth, because Duga had one purpose: detect missiles before they reached the Soviet Union. A massive early warning system, built for one terrifying possibility: nuclear war. But Duga wasn't built to attack enemies. It was built to survive the first minutes of nuclear war. And that fear was about to reshape the Soviet Union forever. To understand Duga, you first have to understand fear. Not ordinary fear, nuclear fear. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union believed one terrifying thing: nuclear war could begin at any moment. And if it did, minutes would decide everything. Soviet military planners feared a surprise attack. Long-range bombers, nuclear submarines, intercontinental ballistic missiles, weapons capable of crossing oceans in less than an hour. Suddenly, geography no longer mattered. Oceans no longer mattered. Distance no longer mattered. The Soviet Union needed warning. Even a few extra minutes could mean survival. So engineers proposed something extraordinary. A radar system unlike anything the world had seen before. Not a radar designed to watch nearby skies. A radar designed to see beyond the horizon itself. Over the horizon radar, signals would be transmitted high into the atmosphere. They would travel across enormous distances, reflect, return, and reveal missile launches thousands of miles away. If the system worked, the Soviet Union might see an attack before the missiles arrived. That was the dream. And that dream became Duga, one of the largest radar systems ever constructed. A machine so large, it looked impossible. Steel towers rising above forests, endless antennas stretching across the landscape. A structure built for one purpose: to hear the beginning of nuclear war. And for a time, it seemed to work. The signal continued. The radar remained active. The Soviet Union invested enormous resources into the project. But no machine lasts forever. And somewhere near Duga, Another system was operating. A system that supplied the energy Duga desperately needed. A system called Chernobyl. Duga was built to detect catastrophe. But in 1986, catastrophe arrived from somewhere else entirely. Duga stood near Chernobyl. And for years, that seemed like a coincidence. Just another military installation built in a remote part of the Soviet Union. But the deeper investigators looked, the stranger the connection became. Because Duga required enormous amounts of electricity. More than ordinary military installations. More than most radar systems ever built. The signal traveled across continents, day after day, night after night. And nearby stood one of the Soviet Union's most powerful energy sources. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Many researchers believe that proximity was no accident. Duga needed power, and Chernobyl provided it. Together, they became part of one of the most ambitious technological projects of the Cold War. Then came April 26, 1986. Everything changed. Reactor number 4 exploded. Fire entered the sky. Radiation spread across Europe. Entire towns were evacuated. Entire cities were abandoned. And suddenly, the forests around Duga became silent. Workers disappeared. Checkpoints emptied. Military activity slowed. The signal weakened. Some believed Chernobyl had killed the project. Others believed something different. That the disaster simply exposed a system already under enormous pressure. Because Chernobyl didn't destroy the Soviet Union overnight. But it became one of the most powerful symbols of a country beginning to crack. Trust was fading. Resources were shrinking. And expensive projects suddenly had uncertain futures. Including Duga, because by then, the Soviet Union itself was beginning to fail. The signal disappeared, the operators left, and eventually, the Russian Woodpecker went silent. But even after the transmission stopped, one question refused to disappear. The signal was gone, the operators were gone, the Soviet Union was gone. Yet one question remained. Was Duga really just a radar system? Or was the Russian Woodpecker hiding a much larger secret? Eventually, the transmission stopped. The tapping sound disappeared from the airwaves. Radio operators noticed it first, then intelligence agencies, then the world. The Russian Woodpecker had gone silent. But for many people outside the Soviet Union, the disappearance raised even more questions. Inside the Soviet Union, the situation was collapsing. The economy weakened. Military budgets disappeared. Entire projects were abandoned. And Duga became one of them. Soldiers left the facility. Engineers disappeared. The checkpoints emptied. Equipment remained exactly where it had been left. Coffee cups, documents, machinery. Entire rooms frozen in time. Nature slowly reclaimed everything. Rain entered broken buildings. Trees surrounded steel towers. Rust covered the machinery. And the giant radar that once screamed across the planet became silent. But something strange happened after that. The silence created even more questions. As information slowly emerged, photographs appeared, maps appeared, satellite images appeared, and once people finally saw Duga, many refused to believe it was only radar. Some believed it was connected to mind control experiments. Others believed it was testing atmospheric weapons. Some even claimed the signal affected human behavior itself. Most of those theories were never proven. But one fact remained undeniable. The Soviet Union built one of the largest radar systems in human history, and hid it beside Chernobyl. And even today, parts of the system still stand inside the forest, waiting, silent, watching empty skies. The Russian Woodpecker was silent, but the structure still remained. And decades later, people started entering the exclusion zone again. Today, Duga still stands, hidden inside the forests near Chernobyl, rusted, silent, abandoned, but not destroyed. The giant metal structure still rises above the trees, like the skeleton of another world. Tourists visit it, urban explorers film it, researchers study it, and everyone says the same thing. It doesn't feel real. Standing beneath Duga feels impossible. The scale is overwhelming. Steel towers stretching into the sky, endless antennas disappearing into fog, a machine built for the end of the world, frozen in time. And maybe that's why the Russian Woodpecker still fascinates people, because it represents something larger than technology. Fear, paranoia, the Cold War itself, a period when nations believed nuclear destruction could happen at any moment. And somewhere inside Soviet forests, engineers built a machine designed to hear the beginning of apocalypse. But today, the signal is gone. The operators are gone. The Soviet Union is gone. Yet Duga still stands, watching empty skies, waiting for a war that never came. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. Humanity built machines for the end of civilization, and then simply walked away from them, leaving them behind like forgotten monuments to fear. Some weapons disappear, some machines collapse, but some warnings remain standing forever.